All right, so I'm going live again, weirdly on a Saturday morning at like 8:30, so I don't really expect anyone to show up, and I probably will not hang around for very long. I just want to go live in this video to clarify a couple of things, maybe just one thing from the live stream that I did yesterday, because I've been reading comments and talking to people, and just it seems like there's a few things that are pretty unclear and pretty confusing people. So the major conflict that a lot of people were having on the live stream and now is that I'm a liar, I'm a hypocrite because I'm deceiving people. Because I made the whole live stream talking about how I'm bothered by these things, but then I made videos using thumbnails that were deceiving. So I just want to explicitly explain exactly what I meant. And the first thing is that when people are saying these things, they're just showing me that they did not get the joke, and they are just proving the exact points of what I said in the video and why I made the videos. So please let me explain. I literally made a series of videos talking about base desires and how they control people for better or worse, usually for worse. How basically it makes people respond to clickbait and makes people really easily manipulated, as an example. So to illustrate my point about base desires and people reacting to them unconsciously, I used images that stimulate people's base desires because that's what the video was about. And that was the point of what I was talking about in the video. So I used the, yeah, exactly. People are attacking me, but I'm like, you're just proving my exact point. Okay, so I used images which would stimulate people's base desires about videos about people's base desires. So people were saying, oh, that's deceitful, that's lying, or whatever. But it's like, no, it's exactly topically relevant to the subject. Like I was trying to be polite yesterday and on the live stream and with most people and be like, oh, well, what about this? What about that? I didn't want to just be like, dude, you just didn't get it. The joke went over your head. So that's what I'm saying here. The joke, if you're offended by those stupid images, which they are stupid, they are clickbait, obviously, which is why I did them sarcastically and as a troll and as a joke. The joke went over your head. You missed the point. Because I'll say it again, I made a series of videos about base desires and overstimulation, and I used images that stimulate people's base desires. The result was a much higher click-through rate and above average video views, which just proved the point of the video, proved the point of the troll, and just obviously was a point that went over people's head. I also made a video that was talking about people's inability, my own, and you know everyone in general, because we're all humans. It's not about like people, you. It's more about people, us. Here's what I've observed through my own experience in myself and in others, and I'm working through within myself. So I made a video talking about the ability to focus on relevance and thus have a certain level of mental focus and problem solving abilities. What did people do in response to those videos? Get distracted by the irrelevant thing, i.e., the thumbnail, and miss the exact point of the video. So, wouldn't that actually confirm the hypothesis of the video? And wouldn't that confirm and support my exact reasoning for why I chose the thumbnails and for why I made the videos and for the actual content and subject matter within those videos? I would say yes, but apparently there's other people who thinks it means I'm a liar or I'm a hypocrite or I'm deceiving people, and I'm I'm on the same level as like government evil people that are dropping bombs on people and or lying or doing whatever these other horrible things. I'm on the same level because I use these clickbait thumbnails, but it's like you just didn't get the joke. So that's what I wanted to come on and say, and hopefully that makes sense and is clear. Obviously, for the two people that popped on already in the comments, it was clear. And I'm seeing that not everyone did not get the joke, but I'm seeing that definitely a handful of people did not get the joke, and it went right over their head, and it just confirms exactly everything I said in the video and the point of why I made the videos. And the other thing that stands out to me is I've made many videos over the years where I'll list maybe 5, 10 stories of like egregious moral conflict, egregious bad behavior, so many things like that. And it's like people have no problem with any of that. They have a problem with I said a word or something, or I should have said this, or they thought I should have said that, or the thumbnail was a certain way. It's like, wait, all of this moral conflict and like genuinely objectively bad things, you're completely like it's fine. It's not worth your your time to comment, but a thumbnail or like a misinterpretation of a word that is somehow so to me people try to attack or me and say passive aggressive personal attacks and things of that nature, but it's like you just make yourself look bad. You're demonstrating number one, you didn't get the point of the video. You're demonstrating number two, that for whatever reason you think it's appropriate to just attack a stranger on the internet and say personally aggressive things towards them. Uh, and then third, you're demonstrating that obviously you can't really listen and sort out the relevant points of information that's presented to you. But yet you're attacking me and I'm supposed to be hurt, offended, put in my place, proved wrong, whatever. But it's like, that's not really a strong basis to jump off from. So I just wanted to make this live stream response to the live stream yesterday, just to clarify this exact thing, because it was, I got a lot of comment, or not a lot, but a handful of angry comments, people being like, "Oh, the thumbnail." And then the other one that I'll say is the Jonah Hill video, which the funny thing about this to me was 800, 900 views, whatever it has. One person mentioned that I didn't mention Jonah Hill in the video. So that just kind of shows like, wow, people really aren't watching, paying attention, or like hearing anything. So then kind of that puts me in a position of experiment. Maybe I want to experiment more and troll people more and just see who notices and who doesn't, who thinks it's funny, who gets it, who doesn't, because to me that's entertaining and funny. But actually the Jonah Hill thing was in response to 2 articles that I linked in the description. And it was a response to the situation. So I guess if you didn't know the situation, you could just look up the situation and what I said would make total sense. Or just the fact that the dude has a Netflix documentary series about the same thing. So anyways, I don't want to go on here too long. I don't want to rant. I don't want to take up people's time. It's early on a Saturday morning. I just wanted to clearly illustrate and explain this. And I'll say it again for the third time. I made a series of videos talking about base desires, how they control people for better or worse. I made a series of videos talking about how people get distracted and focus on irrelevant things and miss the overall point of things. So in those videos, I used thumbnails which stimulated people's base desires through irrelevance, which is completely topically relevant and related to exactly what I made the videos about. And it was a sarcastic troll on the people who maybe would benefit from the information in the video. So that's why I did it. And that was my thought process. The result was a much higher than average click-through rate and above average views. So that also just confirmed my original points and my hypothesis. So then people double down and attack me for doing that. And it's like everything is just lining up and confirming my hypothesis and why I did it. So I tell people stories about, even in the live stream, I gave stories about me saying this is what's happening and a person saying, no, that's not what's happening, but their behavior is an exact match for what I say is happening, but they don't see that level of contradiction and they think I'm the bad guy in the scenario. So to me, that genuinely makes my head hurt. I find that to be a really bothersome human experience. It's almost like if someone like punches you in the face and you're like, dude, you just punched me in the face. No, I didn't. No, I didn't hit you in the face. What are you talking about? I'm not hitting you in the face. It's like, dude, you hit me in the face. No, I didn't. I'm not doing that. That's kind of this is the same kind of equivalent illustration for what some of these comments are doing, and that just really confuses me because I think I'm pretty clear in my language and my word choice. I think I could be better, of course, because I think there's always room for improvement, and I always strive to be more concise, trim the fat, make it as non-emotional as possible and as neutral as possible and as coherent. Here's what I'm claiming. Here's why I'm claiming it. Here's some support and illustrations for why I'm claiming it. And here's how it can possibly benefit you and integrate it. Try to just make it as clear and as simple as possible. But even if you do that, people will still miss the point. Like I can tell you for sure as an example, I could say all these critiques about internal arts and some things of that nature. And then people say, well, the solution is just finding a good teacher. And then I would even argue, I've seen a lot of people over the last 8 years that I've watched have a good teacher. They have the right method. They have all the information. They have the transmission, the energetic support, the community. They have all the components. But over the course of 8 years, they haven't grown at all. They haven't progressed at all. They haven't done anything at all. Why I say that is not to be mean. It's not to be harsh or judgmental. It's two things. For one, I hear their questions and I can go back and listen to the recordings from 8 years ago and they're asking the same exact questions, which their questions 8 years ago were irrelevant. They weren't topical, they weren't useful, they were irrelevant subject. They were irrelevant questions. And I fast forward 8, 10 years now, they're still asking basically the same irrelevant questions, which shows me through me looking at their mental process, through looking at their actions, through looking at their behaviors, I can look and reverse engineer what is going on and what is behind that, what is motivating that. And it's clear that they're not growing, they're not learning, they're not developing, despite having a great teacher, great method, great support, great community, everything, all the components. But their mentality is obviously not functional because they're not growing. I would say, yeah, anyone can see this if you just can think. Like, this is what I realized early on. I'll say this and then I'll come back to my other thing. Well, I'll finish this point and then I'll go back to that question. So, the other reason why I say things like that is to learn from other people's mistakes, learn from other people's experiences. Like, I could look at this person and say, oh, wow, their questions are irrelevant because they have this kind of identity and they're caught up in their own narrative and they're not able to listen to what the teacher's saying. So then I look at myself and say, am I doing this? Am I caught up in my own narrative? Am I not listening? And let me make sure, let me see if I'm listening. Let me see if what I'm hearing and I think I'm taking away is matching what's actually being communicated. So it's not being mean or putting anyone down. It's trying to learn from other people's mistakes to hopefully accelerate my own progress and then look at myself to see if I'm making the same mistakes that I'm seeing in others. And if I am, let me correct them. And oftentimes there is some overlap and there's something I can learn. So that's my thought process, and that's why I look at things in that way. And people think erroneously judge if I'm talking about the concepts and videos that it's somehow me thinking I'm separate from it or that I'm above or better than people, which is completely ridiculous. It's again the collective we. I see things in other people and I look at myself and say, is this in me? Am I doing this? Is that why I'm seeing it? Is this something I can learn from? Is this someone else's mistake or experience that could possibly benefit me and accelerate my own progress or maybe be useful for me or for other people? That's it. That's all it is, which to me makes sense and is useful because life is short, time is limited. And if you could save yourself time and energy and learn from other people's mistakes, that's kind of, it would be useful, I would think. You can save yourself the time and the hassle of making that mistake. That's useful. So like, I'm just confused as to why people are confused by that. Or people are confused or offended by me observing someone slamming their head into the wall thinking they're laying on a pillow. I'm like, they're not the same thing. They're two different things. Um, so anyways, for Chuck, I'm gonna go back to answer your question. You said, can anyone see this? I think yes. I don't think I'm smart or special or different or unique or any of those things. Usually the opposite. Um, I think it's just a pretty basic degree of understanding this one thing, which this one thing is something I learned and figured out for myself, maybe in college, that like how I looked at it for myself was I said, questions are answers, meaning the question that you're asking is kind of in itself an answer. It's an answer because it's revealing a lot of assumptions, a lot of axioms. It's revealing where you are in a process development. It's revealing your level of understanding of a subject. It's revealing a lot about the person just from the question. So to me, I see it as an answer in and of itself. And oftentimes the question already contains the answers because logically we look at things typically through polarity. So it's like usually you're asking a question because you're trying to figure out which side of a polarity that you're looking at. And then if you say, what is my question about? What is the polarity of the subject that I'm inquiring about? Then you can kind of work around and say, well, I'm asking about this subject and the polarity is this. Okay, I'll look at these. Does this seem to be appropriate? It's just kind of a way of getting clarity on context and environment is the way I look at it. Because I look at subjects and knowledge as like a physiological environment, as like a substantial thing, which maybe that's why people say I should be less serious or like lighten up, don't think as much. Who cares if people are using or if definitions are devolving over time? It's like, dude, that's literal tyranny and societal degradation. How are you not bothered by that? The fact that you're not bothered by that, I find that to be bothersome. The fact that, like, again, I could have a video and list 5 to 20 egregious, horrible things. No comment about those. No second thought. No engagement on those things. The issue is a thumbnail, or the issue is I'm mean, or the issue is whatever. And it's like, wow, you're obviously okay with all of these horrible things. And the fact that this thing is a problem to you, and you took all this time out of your day to watch a video by someone you don't like, by someone you don't agree with, by someone you're accusing of being a bad person. You're watching their video and now you're spending time explaining how bad they are. That is already a revealing action. And then the fact that you're have no reproach or no second thought to all these other things is also revealing. So it's like people do these things and like I guess they think they're gonna have an effect or I'm gonna take them seriously, but it's like they're already disqualifying themselves by so many facets and putting themselves on such a weak position. Which why I can say because I also will say to people that I don't actually care what people think, which is true to a degree, but it's obviously not ultimately true because I'm a human being and we can't not care what people think. That's unless you're a complete sociopath or psychopath, then maybe. But it's more so the relevance and importance which is placed upon it. And the situation that this occurred was there was a person that I was talking to who I'd never met. We've been chatting for like 2, 3 days, and they watched a minute of one of my videos and started like trying to tell me what I should do and think and how I should change things and basically offering criticism and insight. And I'm like, look, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm really about. So like, I don't actually respect your opinion because you don't really have the credentials or the background for me to respect what you're saying, and you don't understand what I'm saying or doing. So I just told them like I don't actually really care what people think, which of course there's some truth to that, and it's obviously not ultimately true. The point is what I'm saying is I don't put a lot of importance or relevance on it. Sure, it's in the mix, but if someone actually shows that they understand what I'm saying, then I do care what they think and what they have to say, because it shows they actually understand what I'm saying. So they're communicating from a place of accuracy and like a stable, relevant, useful position, which to me is just common sense. Like if you had a plumber at your house, you wouldn't have him come over to your computer and give you investment advice. Like, hey, I got $100,000 I'm about to put in the stock market. Could you just tell me how I should distribute these funds? If you did that, you would kind of be stupid. What you would do is maybe find a financial advisor. You would find someone with the credibility, with the track record, with the success, with the skill set and the expertise in that particular field that you would be able to take advantage of to get the best return on your investment or whatever. It's the same thing in so many contexts of life. But for some reason, when it comes to other contexts, people just don't apply the same thing. But again, I understand that maybe I'm an idiot in that regard. So it's just funny to me. Ceaselessly and endlessly entertaining is what that is. And coincidentally, the person that I was talking to was a female that I had met from a dating app, and well, we didn't actually meet. And at a certain point, I just felt like this is not really going to be a thing. So I'll be a little more direct, and that directness ended it. But another thing that I'll share on that subject that has actually been pretty clear to me recently, because I hadn't been on dating apps for a long time and now was on them for a couple of weeks. I noticed that a decent chunk of people, females in my context, I noticed them like cycling through all of these tactics of like manipulation and coercion. Obviously, like a pretty low level, right? Like they're not evil dictators or something, right? But I noticed them just trying to like find something that I would respond to. But I just don't respond to any of it. What made me think of it and why I say it is because the person that I was just talking about in the story, the day before they stopped talking to me, they were saying, "Oh my God, I just feel lucky to talk to you. You have such a unique and interesting mind. You're so smart. You're so intelligent. You're so kind. You're so compassionate. You're so empathetic. You're so empathic. You're so understanding. Like you have just such a unique perspective. Like you understand people and situations so accurately, and you really understand me, and you really hear me, and all these things." And I'm just kind of like, really? Like most people think I'm a jerk. I mean, I'm being tongue in cheek. Like most people don't think I'm a jerk. My point was, I could see based on the way she was responding that it would only take one or two things for her to flip to the other side and be like, "Oh, you're an asshole." Why I say that is because I observed in people over the years that the pedestal and the crucifix tend to exist pretty closely together. They're not as far apart as people might think. The distance between the two is pretty short, meaning someone's worshiping you and putting you on a pedestal, and then the distance between it takes them to want to kill you and get rid of you and take you down and make you suffer. It's a pretty small, it's a much shorter path than I previously had thought. But the fact of the matter is, what that reveals to me is that someone that's using that kind of currency, that's the way they're relating to the world, is through flattery or disingenuine emotional appeals. Because obviously, yes, there's a time and a place for genuinely expressing admiration or kindness to another person, of course, but that there's genuine and there's disingenuine manifestations of things. So I just realized that people who operate in that kind of disingenuine currency are pretty confused within themselves because they don't realize that's what they're doing. And also it's not about the other person, it's more about them. And the fact that if they're operating in that way, things tend to operate through polarities. People operate through polarities. And if you go to one extreme, the likelihood that you're going to go to the other extreme is highly likely. It's not guaranteed, but the probability is pretty high that if you're over here, you're probably going to go here. That's just life. So I just realized that if people operate under that currency, that's typically what's going to come out. And I think we all can kind of tell inauthentic from authentic. So what I'm saying and what I noticed is, and even just happened recently, where they'll like cycle through like physical compliments, mental compliments. Here's sexuality. Here's sexuality. Here's sexuality, and trying to like circle through and see what you'll actually respond to. Whereas my thing is like, sure, those are all cool and fine, but who are you as a person? Can we actually like really genuinely connect and converse as a human level? And what I've seen so many times, well, I would say maybe 5 times in the last month or so, is that these ladies are operating under such anxiety and tension, and that it's like if you don't respond within, I don't know, a few hours, or let's say it's 8 p.m. at night, and like I go to bed early and I stop checking my phone at a certain point. I don't respond to their messages overnight. They already unmatch me, or they already are like, oh, this guy's out. He's done. He's not engaged. He's not serious. He's not committed. He's not emotionally available. They start going into all this stuff. And it's like, dude, what level of insane tension and anxiety are you on? Or it's like, we've been chatting for 3 days and you haven't asked me out on a date. So you're not serious and you're not seriously invested and you're not a good candidate. And I'm just like, do people not have anything else going on? Like, am I not running businesses? Am I not training? Do I not have any of these other things? So I can tell you that one lady in particular, I pointed this out to. I just said, hey, like, you barely know anything about me, and you might have just invented like a fantasy image of me. So you just want to meet up immediately. And you kind of can't imagine that I might still have reservations or still want to like ask you questions. And then even when I was trying to ask her questions, like, oh, we're past that point. I feel like we know all we need to know. And if you don't want to meet up with me, then you're not emotionally available. And, I've done so much work and I'm such an awesome person that I don't deserve this and I deserve better. And my perfect guy is out there and all this stuff. And I'm just like, what? Like, what planet are we on here, guys? Like, what happened? Uh, and I just tried to. My first round was I was trying to politely broach the subject by telling stories like, oh yeah, I'd say me personally, I'm just kind of having a little bit of a difficult time finding my footing in this online dating, because it seems like people are either completely disinterested, meaning you try to talk to them and they just give you nothing or they don't respond, or they're just like, let's meet up right now. Let's meet up right now. Let's get together. Let's fall in love. What are we? What are we gonna do? When are we gonna get married? I'm like, people are on these extremes, and I'm like, I'm a little more in the middle, and I'm just trying to find some grounding in this. So I tried to bring it up and suggest it in kind of a polite, general, non offensive, personal way, just to see like, and then their response was basically like, yeah, whatever, I'm sorry you had negative experiences. It seems like those negative experiences are, you know, harming you and blah, 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 blah. And you're just like a toxic man. And I'm like, what? So then I was more direct and I just said, hey, well, it seems like this is what's occurring, which is you just asked me a couple basic questions. You invented some idea, which the questions were like about my job, about my money, about my career. Have I done therapy? Things like that. And you're like, oh, great. Now let's meet up. Let's meet up. Let's meet up. Da, 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 da. Why do you want to meet up? Why haven't you want to meet up? We've been chatting for 2 days. Why don't you want to ask me out? Why aren't we planning things? Why are you going on dates? Why are you doing it? I'm just like, dude, we've exchanged 8 text messages. Like, what's the deal? So then I said those things to them, and then their response was that I'm not emotionally available and I'm all these things. And I'm like, I clearly communicated my emotions and my feelings to you explicitly under multiple attempts in multiple different ways. You just didn't hear them or respond to them, which confirms that I probably don't even want to meet up with you anyways, because you're caught up in all this tension and anxiety. So then, of course, they stopped talking to me. So I have experiences like this, and then I look at them and I analyze them and I say, well, why did this happen? Why did this occur? What is going on? I look at myself, of course, and I also look at the context, and then I see like people behave and operate in these ways, and their responses are these like weird therapy clusterfuck ideas of doublespeak. Oh, you're not ready for a relationship. You're not emotionally available. And I've done all this work and I'm an awesome person. My therapist says this and I deserve X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, it literally just took the smallest, most trivial, benign, politely said thing for this to occur and for you to start laying in and saying all these completely inaccurate things. Which it's like, if I'm completely upfront with you about where I'm at, what I'm feeling, and why I'm feeling it, isn't that the definition of being emotionally available? I thought that's what the definition meant because that's typically how I operate. Here's what I feel. Here's why I feel that way. And here's how this is going to affect the situation. I thought that was emotional availability. I thought that was communication. I thought that was healthy boundaries. I thought those were all the things that people were allegedly striving for. But then when I communicate it to people, sometimes in these scenarios, they get extremely upset and defend and angry. It's okay. But also too, people should understand for context. I just talk about the bad and the negative things. I don't really describe the positive interactions and scenarios that I tend to have, which I do have. I have plenty of them. I just don't go on YouTube and be like, "Hey, let me tell you about great relationship I have." Like, we get along, we communicate, we understand each other, we have a great rapport, we tease each other, we joke with each other. We challenge each other at times. We help each other grow. We suggest new things to each other. We whatever. People are like, yeah, it's boring. Who cares? Where's the drama? Where's the conflict? So, anyways, yeah, that's just some of the things that I've learned and observed over the last month or so. Um, Getting in the whole online dating world is just quite interesting. Um, it's yeah. So these are some of the things why I make the videos that I make. It's just trying to make sense and understand situations and context. Because if you don't understand something and you don't know how to relate to it, you're probably going to feel unstable and have conflict and kind of maybe have anxiety. But if you understand it accurately, that's the important thing. You understand it accurately, which means you can fairly accurately predict outcomes, predict responses. That implies that your understanding is fairly correct. That's just kind of basic logic. Um, then you can kind of navigate situations and have peace of mind. Like, for example, um, political things that are happening right now, social agendas that are being pushed. And then basically I look at the insanity that comes out of people, whether it's gender bender stuff or economic stuff or, you know, other social agendas. I see it coming out of people. And because I have seen throughout my life that the vast majority of people do not operate independently, we're all basically just products of our environment. I would have a higher opinion of people if people gave me more reasons to have a higher opinion. Obviously, I think as a caveat, I do believe most people are good and kind and have a good heart. Yes. I mean, when I go out in public, I usually have like sometimes I almost feel like I kind of want to cry a little bit. Like it's a slight feeling of like, wow, this is like see families together. I see people with their kids. I see couples together. And I mean, I'm like, yeah, this is nice. Like, wow, I'm really glad to see this. This makes me feel good. Like I'm happy to see people connecting, happy to see people out here socializing, as contrasted with people just stuck to their screens or on their phones or all these things. Like, so i- if I say like I think people are brainwashed or products of social engineering, that's not the entire picture. Because it's just there's also Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all these other factors that play into it, which I can't go into in every single scenario. But the point is, if I see people putting out these things, then I want to say, well, where is this coming from? Who's pushing it? Why are they pushing it? And what's probably going to be the end goal, the end agenda for that thing being pushed? because mostly people are useful idiots down here for people up here that are kind of pulling the levers. People way, way at the top of the food chain that are influencing agendas and policies and pushing things through to basically socially engineer and condition people. So for me, I think it's useful to understand how and why those things occur so you can understand it, so you can know how to navigate it, so you can know how to respond to it, and so you can also not blame people or be mad at the individual for it. And so you can not be mad in yourself, because there's the real danger once you get into, alternative theories or conspiracy theory, or even just understanding the world and history for how it works. It's easy to get dark. It's easy to get pessimistic or nihilistic or really just feel like shit. It's very easy to do. uh, but I find that having actual understanding of things and understanding the mechanics allows me to have understanding and then not have all of the emotional stuff that goes with it, because I feel more able to navigate it and not blame people, not blame situations, and it's fine. I mean, it's not fine, obviously. Ideally, it would be better if, we weren't locked up in our homes for 3 years and all these other things. Yeah, preferably, it would be nice if we didn't have to do those things. It would be nice if we weren't being kind of screwed from every angle, socially, at least in America, in terms of losing our buying power and having our money become worth less and have the cost of everything go up while we don't really make any more money, while a lot of our infrastructure crumbles. Like, it would be great if maybe that wasn't the case. Yes. But what can I really do about it? Not much. So why am I going to sit around and be super angry and be in a negative emotional state and be mean to other people and ruin my life subjectively because of something I can't really change or control? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't mean I shouldn't understand it and have like a working knowledge. But to me, it's like once you develop the understanding, then you can just turn it off. Okay, I understand. I got it. You can go back to your life. That's kind of how I function and how I try to view it, because I find that to make the most sense and be the most functional. Um, so yeah, I think at this point I'm just kind of rambling, and waffling. I don't know if it's really even relevant to the original point. Um, but yeah, thanks for the handful of people that showed up on a random Saturday morning, super early. Um, I just wanted to clarify the basic confusion around the clickbait in the thumbnails. So thanks to R, RV, and Mima, and Chuck for showing up and making comments, and for watching the videos. Hopefully things are somewhat helpful or useful. Hopefully people can learn from my experience, learn from my perspective, learn from my mistakes, and apply that to their own life and improve their situation. Which I guess maybe one story I will share, because people have oftentimes in the past wanted more personal stories about my life and my background, because I don't think I've ever really talked about that much. Although I've shared things in podcasts, but I will say that I think part of the reason why I am the way I am is obviously inherent. Just how I was born, how my environment shaped me, how my brain worked from a very young age. Part of it is also the fact that the small handful of people on the planet that I really respect and that I've looked to as mentors, as teachers, or as role models, they all tend to be a few things: extremely intelligent, far more intelligent than me, far more capable than I am, for sure, firstly. And secondly, they tend to be all extremely direct, extremely precise, extremely like to the point. Not necessarily like abrasive or mean or rude or harsh or anything like that, but just straight to the point. And I can remember in particular, um, one of my first encounters of this, um, was kind of two different things. On one person, there was a guy that he just kind of taught and illustrated through funny jokes and stories that when I first heard them, I just thought they were funny jokes and stories. I'm like, why is he telling me this? This doesn't make sense. But then I realized as I got older and a little bit more mature, I realized the implicit message of the story and was directly and explicitly related to me. So it's like he packaged the lesson or the teaching or the point in like a funny joke or anecdote that I then kind of had to unpack for myself. So it was kind of like an indirect form of being direct. And then on the flip side, I had another guy who was just straight up direct. It was like, no, you are this, you are that, you are doing this, you are doing that. This is not true. This is not correct. And here's why it's not correct. And here's why you're doing it, and just breaking it all down. And to me, at first, that was pretty like jarring and pretty bothersome. 'Cause I'm like, oh, what? But I actually really came to like and enjoy it because I was like in the sea of bullshit that is human life the vast majority of the time. Finally, someone is honest and direct, and we can have an honest and direct conversation about what's actually going on so that I can hopefully make honest and direct assessments and decisions from that place rather than trying to be polite, trying to be all these social things that we get caught up in where we never actually really say what we actually really think or feel. We never, we don't even know it within ourselves, so we can't even express it. So then we feel this low grade frustration. I mean, some people do, some people don't have that desire. I guess maybe artists or creative types have this need to express something or say something or clarify something. Maybe that's different. Maybe that's something that not everyone has, but there's something that for me um, was like a desire. I was like, okay, this is true. This is real. This is something. I need to follow this or pursue this. So this person was very direct, very blunt, very kind of like kung fu-ish, just like boom, straight in, straight to the point, in the least, in the most efficient, effective way with no wasted effort or movement. Just boom, done. That was, of course, a little bothersome, but I came to grow and love it. But I think what had happened is seeing that person over time, I started to model some of those characteristics. So I started communicating with other people in that way. And I think it's not really something people are used to or necessarily even want a lot of the time. Um, so, but it was something that was valuable to me. And it's something that came from a person that I highly respected because they really helped me develop and change as a person in my life. So I've had a handful of people that are like that. And basically, those are the people that I actually have grown to respect and viewed as mentors and teachers within my life and helped me get to a place of not really needing them so much to where I can solve and work through things and understand things for myself, which I think is the goal. Like a good teacher should try to actually help you. It's like teaching a man to fish versus giving him a fish, I guess that kind of thing. Um, because the way I saw it was when I encountered these people, I feel like there's two responses. Some people would either, or maybe three. The first is just be self-absorbed in yourself and just stay in your own emotional whatever. That's one thing. Just stay in your own, wow, this person's amazing. Oh my God, they're so cool. Wow, they're amazing. They're so cool. I'm getting to talk to them. Wow, this is so cool. You could stay there. The second is you could be offended. Oh my God, they're saying this thing and they're so much smarter than me. They're so much more successful than me. And they must think they're better than me. And I feel insecure. I feel small. I feel attacked. I feel less than. So I need to leave the situation because it's uncomfortable. There's that. Or thirdly, you could, I guess, do what I did, which is include all of them because I had all of those. I had all of those experiences. I thought, oh, fuck that. They think they're better than me. They think they're smarter than me. Blah, blah, blah. I feel smaller. But I was like, well, but they are, but they are like some of the people, one of the people I'm thinking of is like a multi-billionaire. And I was like, well, I'm not a billionaire. So, uh, and then, also for part of it was caught up in my own delusion. Wow, my God, this person that's smarter than me and more successful than me is giving me attention and talking to me. So maybe I'm not so worthless. Maybe I am. Maybe there is some value in myself that I could that I could cultivate if this person sees it. And then the third thing was, let me try to learn and understand not what they're doing, but why they're doing it. They say this thing, but why do they say this thing? Why do they think that? Why? How did they get there? What are the beliefs? What are the axioms? What are the life experiences? What are the innate mental qualities that allowed them to get to that position? So that was kind of the route that I took. And that's the route that I tend to take anytime I encounter someone that's more competent at me than in anything. Whatever it is, I'm just kind of like, cool, let me learn, let me improve. And it is uncomfortable. It is painful. It is like, oh, I suck at this. I'm not good. I don't know what I'm doing. I look like an idiot. I feel bad about this. I should be better. Yeah, everyone's going to have, I think, this degree of discomfort. But I think you just have to be okay with it and move forward and be willing to be an idiot, be willing to be wrong, be willing to do all of those things. And I think of anything in life that I've ever done, or even what small, trivial accomplishments that I have, it's just from being willing to be wrong, being willing to make mistakes and be incorrect. And the only reason I've arrived at anything that's remotely accurate or correct is because I tried and did a bunch of shit that wasn't. Or I was lucky to have someone who was a mentor or teacher to point out to me, oh, here's the potholes, here's the dangerous part, here's where you need to focus on. Like, okay, thanks. So I'm just sharing those stories to kind of provide some context, because I've tried in my life to develop a somewhat unique perspective on situations and things, just because that was what was interesting to me. That's what made sense to me, because I could just as easily make a YouTube channel that is all the other same new age nonsense. Follow your feelings, follow your dreams, visualize your desired outcome, all the Abraham Hicks, all the basically Hay House encyclopedia of stuff. Here's chakras. Here, I could just do all of that stuff. Or I could just emotionally validate people. You are already perfect. You're already amazing. You're a highly sensitive person. You're an empath. You're special, unique. You're profound. The world doesn't understand you. I could do all that stuff. But the thing is, there's already tons of people doing it, probably doing it better than I can, because I would be faking it. So then I'm like, well, what can I actually do that's a little bit more unique and different to me that I do not see other people doing? What are perspectives that I don't see people having, that I don't see out in the discourse or on YouTube or on social media? How can I try to develop something that is a little bit more unique or different? That's my intention. That's my aim. Not saying that I succeed in it, because I don't think we can be really unique or different, because we're just rearranging things that we inherited and were given. Like, I think genuine creativity and genuine innovation is extremely rare. Mostly it's just repurposing and rearranging pre-existing things. So I don't delude myself into any of those things. That's just basically it. But it's just kind of like a driving, motivating factor, because that's what's interesting for me personally. Which is interesting, which is funny, which goes back to the story that I was saying earlier about this lady who, on day 2, she's like, oh my God, have such a unique, interesting perspective and a unique mind. And I just feel so grateful to just even get to talk to you and hear what you're saying. And I'm just like, man, I don't know, dude. That's a little, that's a little much. It's a little thick for my taste. Like, let's just pump the brakes on that one there, guys. I just typically ignore it completely when people say things like that and don't really engage with it. I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay. So that's why the next day, when they're telling me I should be this way, be that way, try this, try that, basically not do what I'm doing and not be who I am and not whatever. And I'm like, well, wait, unique perspective. Now I should be like what other people are doing and kind of like lower and adapt and change and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, funny how that works. I'm kind of like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, because it's just a YouTube channel, dude. Like, it's not that important. Which is funny to me because I remember early on, I haven't gotten this negative comment in a while. People be like, "You're so self-absorbed. You're a narcissist. You're just on you just think your opinions are so right and whatever, whatever." I'm like, bro, I'm a guy that took all the time and energy to figure out how to communicate somewhat and then make YouTube videos. Obviously, yes, I do think what I'm saying is important enough. And obviously, I'm talking about my perspective and my opinion and my experience because it's my YouTube channel and I happen to be a human being with this thing here. So, what else am I supposed to talk from? It's like, did you not even think through this attack or diminutive comment at all? Like, do you not understand the context? I don't think so. Those things are, it's like, it's basically like, oh, well, what you're saying isn't true because it's your opinion. It's like, the fuck else am I supposed to say then? Like, I don't know. It's just these self-defeating, ridiculous mental gymnastics that people do, which we all do to a degree. We're all human. I get it, but it's like maybe no, maybe don't attack people personally, and avoid and leave that kind of out of it, and then we're fine. Like, like I think there's a difference between disagreeing with what someone says, disagreeing with something, and then that's different than attacking someone personally. Because I can't say that I never do it because I'm not perfect and I can always improve my communication skills, but I tend to not attack people personally. I tend to say things and present things about the thing and not about the person as an evaluative thing. Meaning, like, this particular belief or dynamic is dysfunctional in this way, not you are a shitty person or you are an idiot or you are incapable or incompetent. There's no insults, there's no whatever, unless they attack me personally and I'm in a bad mood, then I might make the mistake of using diminutive terms to insult someone because I might think they're an idiot or something. But I should be better. I should not do that, of course, but that's my work in progress and something that I'm getting better at. Um, but it's just, I think people need to understand there's a difference between those two things. But again, going back to my point about questions are answers and statements people make are revealing about who they are as a person. So the fact that someone goes on a YouTube video, watches maybe a minute of it, doesn't understand the point, doesn't understand the person communicating it, and then wants to personally attack that person and say diminutive, hurtful things about the person based on misunderstanding and laziness and all these other things, they don't realize that that makes them actually look really bad. Like, I would never do that. That's something I don't think I've ever actually done. I don't think I've ever actually gone on a YouTube channel or on social media and attacked someone personally or shit on them. I don't think that's something I've ever done because it's fucking stupid, for one. I might, let's say, internal arts person, they're doing Tai Chi. I might be like, yeah, that's no good. But I'm not going to comment that. I'm not going to drop in their video and say, oh my God, you think you're good at Tai Chi? You're not good at Tai Chi. Da, 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 da. Why would I do that? That's so dumb. It's so ridiculous. That doesn't mean I'm not going to sit there and look at and say, like, oh, this is the engine they're using. They're not even using their quad. Like, they're just moving their body from hinge joints. Okay, cool. I mean, I can see that within 5 or 10 seconds of watching someone moving. I can see some of those things, not much, but at a decent enough level to be like, oh, okay, yeah, they don't even have these basic mechanics in their system or whatever. Or I can listen to how they're talking about something and realize that the actual mechanics are missing. That doesn't mean I think they're a bad person or an idiot or um, anything diminutive or bad or whatever. Maybe they didn't have the access. Maybe they didn't have a good teacher. Maybe they don't care. Whatever, maybe it's just about their feeling good about their identity. They're insecure. They want to do something to feel cool. So that's what they're doing. Cool. Whatever. Don't care. Point is, I'm not going to just sit there and shit on them in a YouTube comment because why would anyone do that? V would like to know, do I drink alcohol? Occasionally, occasionally in a social situation, but I don't really care for it. It's not something I crave. I mean, I think last winter, I for some reason had a phase of like a week or two where I was drinking every night, because there's a liquor store here that has like insane, amazing beers and ciders and meads and all kinds of just crazy artisanal stuff. So I was getting these like artisanal mead, which mead is like a honey wine, and then some artisanal, unpasteurized, unfiltered organic ciders, which the proof on most of those was pretty low. Some of the meads, the proof was pretty high, I will say, and I'm a lightweight because I don't drink. So I was just like, so for some reason, for like 2 weeks, that was fun. Like, oh, I'm gonna drink a glass of mead or cider at night, and that'll be fun. Maybe it was wintertime, and it was just seemed like a entertaining, stupid thing to do. So I did it, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm done. I'm bored. Move on." But that's pretty much it. I don't really drink. I don't really do anything. I don't do any drugs. Um, I don't really. Yeah, I'm very boring in that regard. Um, so yeah. Um, yeah, I think drink drinking regularly is kind of a net negative thing. I don't think it really adds much to your life. I can understand socially. I can also understand that some people do have genuinely stressful lives, and having a beer or having alcohol is an outlet. It is like a reward. It is like a way to unwind. And I honestly, I don't have anything like that. I'm totally okay with that. Because this is the thing that I think sometimes don't people don't realize is that even if people disagree with me, I could still agree with them. Like, I could sit here, we could spend an hour, and I could say, "These are all the negative effects of alcohol, and here's why I don't like it, and here's why blah, 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 blah." But then someone could come along and say, "You know what? I work 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and, like, I don't have time for anything else. I just wanna, like, crack a beer and watch TV, or crack a beer and sit on my porch, or crack a beer with some friends." And I can say, "I totally agree with that. I totally support that. I have no problem with that." So it's like I can do both of those things. Or I can say I don't like to drink, but then I can be friends with people that do like to drink and socially do drink. Obviously, they're not taking it to excess, but that's fine. Like I can go into social situations with people that I completely don't agree with and get along with them and agree with them because I can try to understand, well, why do they think that? What do they actually mean? And be like, oh yeah, yeah, I can see how you think that. I can see how you arrived there. Um, But so to me, that just is flexibility because I don't know that there's that many things that are 100% true across 100% of situations. I think you have to obviously do what makes sense for you, but then you also have to be willing enough and open enough to change, and to adapt and evolve and update and not just be fixed. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have with when I say things is they think that it's like fixed. It's like I make videos pointing out dysfunctional dynamics in therapy or something in that world. People are like, "Oh my god, he's an asshole. He thinks therapy doesn't work and he thinks therapy's bad and he said all these things and I went to therapy and it helped me." And I'm like, number 1, I didn't say any of those things. And number 2, I don't think it's 100% bad. I pointed out one specific dynamic that is dysfunctional, and I showed how and why it's dysfunctional and why I think that. That's different than saying the whole thing's bad and you shouldn't do it. Because there's plenty of situations that it could be very useful, very beneficial, life changing for people. But the fact of the matter is, I've seen it not help a lot of people, and I've seen it make a lot of people worse. So what am I supposed to do? Not understand that? Just be like, oh well, It's good for some people. Just come on, guys. I mean, it's just real. It's just life. Um, but I don't understand that kind of thing. But yeah, I think for people drinking all the time, I don't really understand it. I don't really think it's the healthiest thing, but we all have different priorities and goals in life. Because the thing too is, realistically speaking, you could do everything in your life to be as healthy as possible, and you could still die. I mean, you still are going to die for sure, but I mean, you could still get cancer. You could still have bad things happen to you, even if you do all these healthy things. Like, so I don't really worry about that kind of stuff too much anymore, which is why like my diet is actually not objectively not that great. I still focus on quality most of the time, but it's not what most people consider to be healthy. But yet somehow I've lost a bunch of weight over the last couple of months, and I'm dropping body fat. But how did I do that? Through actually changing the quality of the magnetic fields of my body, which I might actually do a video on that soon, because people were like, I make videos saying, oh, a lot of people do internal arts and it's fake and it's not real, and Montauk Chi is a fraud, and visualization doesn't do anything. And people are like, that's mean, I did visualization, it helped me, or whatever. Like, cool, fine, right, cool, I get it. But why do I say those things? People never ask that question. Why would I say that? What motivated me to arrive at that position? What experience did I have that informed that? Or do they just say, oh, he has a different view and I don't like it, so that's it? Okay, cool. Well, you just missed an opportunity to probably learn something or have some actual understanding, but you don't have understanding, so I don't respect your opinion, so who cares? So anyways, the reason why I say those things is something I might explore in a future video, but it basically comes down to the magnetic fields. So I can tell you that, like, as an example, my entire pelvis has rearranged, has opened up, has loosened, has opened. My whole pelvis, my whole low back, my whole sacrum, and my hips completely just rearranged, opened up, released, strengthened, more mobility, more flexibility. The entire tissue quality is different. The entire structure and the arrangement of the structure is completely different. And it didn't come from stretching. It didn't come from doing anything that people would commonly associate with all of those results. And I can tell you that visualization won't make that happen. All of the fake internal stuff that people are doing absolutely will not make that happen, because I tried it for many years and it didn't do anything. And because I look at the people that doing it and they don't have those results. So we can conclude, and even the people teaching it don't have those results, because you can see it in their body. So you can conclude that's not an effective methodology. So the fact of the matter is, I consolidated and strengthened a magnetic field, and then it completely rearranged my psoas, my QL, my pelvis, all the things. And I've been trying to stretch and strengthen and open and mobilize all those areas for years, for no success. But yet 2 weeks of actually strengthening the field in like a real way, all the results manifest. So then I arrive at a position of saying, yeah, all this other stuff really doesn't work, really isn't that very effective. And what I'm putting forth is actually effective. Why? Because it actually was effective. Because the actual structure of my physical body is permanently different. Not I have to like consciously maintain structural alignment cues. No, it's permanently different. And I didn't do anything with the structure. I didn't engage the muscles. I didn't move the muscles. I didn't do anything with the muscles or tissues. They were completely relaxed. They were completely hung from the bone. I just worked the field directly, and then all of these other results results manifested. So that would put me in a position of changing my opinion. So then I put forth videos of those opinions, and people were like, he's mean. He disagrees. Oh, I visualize something and I feel relaxed. Cool. Does it completely rearrange your physiology permanently in only a couple of weeks? Does it completely resolve certain physiological issues? Does it continually open up and strengthen that tissue structure in your body? Does it lead to further abilities and further progression? Probably not. So, yeah. But again, that's just the basis of Chinese medicine, ultimately, is the organization of these fields. It's not really meridians, it's not really any of the things that people think, actually, which is why people tend to not produce that profound of results. But what happens is people don't produce profound results, so they keep lowering the standard. Oh, well, I felt relaxed for a little bit. I felt tingling. I felt small, trivial things, or I moved my intention through my body. So that must be what it means. It's like, no, dude, if you read stories, you read classical things, the shit's crazy. People bursting in flames, people busting out of light, people having insane, crazy abilities, people having insane cognitive capacities. That's all literal, real stuff. But it's just the barrier and the measure is getting so low and just keeps getting lower. So to me, that world, that's my point of reference. Internal arts, cultivation, some religious stuff, and the high level abilities that come from those things. I don't have them personally yet, but people that are teachers, they do. And then the framework, that's my basis, that's my emphasis, which is not what typically people are basing from. So then when I put things out into the world and I share my opinion, it seems to be a little bit different. So then it's like people like it because it seems to be different, but then they want it to be homogenous too. They want to put it into all the pre-existing homogenous boxes. When it's like, then it wouldn't be different, would it? So what exactly did you do to experience these changes in 2 weeks? Well, the caveat is obviously 8 years of previous training, partially that, but partially just having the awareness of being able to, I'm trying to think, how did I actually do it? Basically just became aware of the magnetic field, stabilized my awareness to that, maintained certain qualities of awareness, stepped my awareness back further while maintaining stability on the field. And then maintaining stability on the field while stepping my awareness back further caused the field to do this, like, which caused everything in that area to go. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much the method. But I mean, what does it come from? Probably Nadon, some alchemical training through consolidating of the essence. But I think it's just basically the water field or the kidney field, basically, which is not actually in the kidneys. It's down where the Ming Men region is, basically where your spine comes out of your pelvis, whatever that is, like L3 or something. That region around there inside the pelvis, but it's like further back. That's where that field is. So it's that one, because there's basically the lower dantian, which is a field. There's the field in the like kind of pelvis Ming Men region. There's one in the solar plexus. There's these up here. There's one in the center of the chest. And then there's the diaphragm. Basically, those are like the 5 fields, which is what the 5 elements are based on in Chinese thought. which is what, it's not even really Chinese. It predates all of that stuff, but it's the basis of Chinese medicine, basically the 5 organs, the 5 phases, 5 emotions, the 5 elements, the 5 movements, the 5 pulses, the 5 colors, the 5 tastes, the 5 sounds, the 5 whatever. All of those things goes back to the 5 pulses. It's also when people talk about rainbow body, each of those pulses in fields has a color. That color is what people call the rainbow because it's like whatever. So yeah, it's just basically getting some basic level of recondensing in those fields. Other people might not really need that condensing. They might already have them pretty condensed. For me, it's just my my kidney qi and jing was definitely depleted for a lot of my life. So for me, that field needs to really reconsolidate. Just because, for most of my teenage years, I was masturbating to porn like multiple times per day, while also not sleeping, while also playing sports, while also eating like garbage. Carried that over into my 20s. That's just not a great recipe for for maintaining the consolidation of your lower fields. That's just a way of very quickly and easily dispersing it. And then, not to mention, quite a lot of stressful scenarios and PTSD kind of situations, which just cause all of your fields to scatter. So yeah, that's the how. So still a lot more work to be done. Still a lot of work in progress. Still recovering and rebuilding and reestablishing the workshop, let's say. But other people would maybe start from a different place because maybe their health was better or they had certain other foundations. Or maybe they're not a guy that spent their 20s, just teens and 20s, just masturbating to porn all the time. So maybe their kidney field is not so dispersed. So anyways, yeah, this went on way longer than I had originally anticipated. I should probably pop off now. I just actually wanted to go on for like 5 minutes and just answer that question. Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to explain things and share as much detail as I can. It's just people tend to not ask good questions. Sorry if that's mean. But if people ask me actually good questions or just relevant questions, I'm happy to give as much as I possibly can. It's just I noticed over the years, people tend to not ask very good questions a lot of the times. It's just like usually I'm really hyperstimulated. How can I be more stimulated? I'm hyperstimulated. What do you think about this form of stimulation? What do you think about that form of stimulation? I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of like trying to recommend people to just chill out and maybe not be so stimulated. And they're like, oh, okay. What do you think about LSD? What do you think about weed? What do you think about mushrooms? What do you think about ayahuasca? What do you think about plant medicines? It's like, dude, I've made videos about this. Like, I'm happy to share my opinion on it, but it's like, it's not going to be what people want to hear. So, I do appreciate when people ask good questions, thoughtful questions. I appreciate when people listen. I'm very grateful for that. So I try to give as much information as I can and do whatever I can to hopefully let people benefit from my mistakes, my experience, and hopefully make more progress than I have, and avoid some things of that nature. Any new product updates? So yes, I'm working on. So I don't know if you're familiar with the product Mud Water, but I'm working on a product that will absolutely be better than that. That's all I'll say. A coffee version and a non-coffee version because some people like coffee, some people don't. I have these things formulated. I have them dialed in. I just kind of need to produce them. But the coffee product that I'm working on, I'm meeting some difficulty because I'm trying to create something that doesn't exist. And I'm trying to use some of the best coffee on the planet, which is not as easy as you would think. if I wanted to use shitty coffee that basically every other company use, I could create the product next week, but then it would just be kind of the same product that every other company has, but I'm trying to do it with really insanely high quality coffee that by itself would be amazing. By itself is some of the best coffee that on the planet that you can buy in a retail avenue, but just the people that I've been dealing with, they're not really business people. They don't really want to supply it to me in bulk. Or I ask them like, it's so weird. Like I'll reach out to these companies and I'm like, I want to buy a lot of your product. Can you help me do this? And they're like, oh no. I'm like, I'm gonna say this again. I want to buy a lot of your product regularly for a long time. They're like, nah. I'm like, okay. I'm trying to give you money for your product that you sell, which is the basis of your company, regularly for a long time, and it will require like no work from you. Um, so that is just like quite difficult to do. So that's the other one. But then I have another one that's like a non-coffee version that will just basically destroy all of the coffee alternatives and replacements, which just they sound so disgusting to me. Like mud water just sounds terrible. Like chocolate chai with all these herbs in it. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to rag on anyone else's product or anything of that nature. It just amazes me that such low quality, poorly formulated, poorly produced products are so successful. But it's like, I mean, they must have venture capital money or some investment to be able to make it happen because their branding is great, their marketing is great, social media is great, it's trendy, it's cool, it's all the things. So it's like great. So yeah. You mentioned that you were working on Holy Basil. Is that going to be in your site? It's in progress. That was kind of a dead end because basically the best Holy Basil products are all kind of like supercritical extracts, which those are already produced and available from like New Chapter and large companies. So it's like, why am I going to just compete and sell the same product that they're selling? A lot of the powdered extracts that I found and tried just weren't as good. Um, I took them and didn't really notice that much, or people were focusing on the wrong chemical components. And then some suppliers that I reached out to just never got back to me and weren't interested in working together. Um, so that kind of hit a dead end. Um, I mean, I could probably find a producer and to make a tincture for me or something. Um, but again, unless it's different enough or unique enough, I don't find it that useful for my cash flow because I mean, just to be honest, like I don't have investors, I don't have financial backing. I have to live off of I have to live off the revenue my company generates. So I don't necessarily always have 10, 20, $30,000 spare to just put into new products or put into development or testing things out. Times in the past I have had that, but currently I do not have that extra capital to just do on something that maybe won't be that successful. Um, so basically, my thought process is that I'm probably going to get rid of chaga and instead replace it with turkey tail, just because turkey tail does a lot and people really like it. It's a little bit more trendy. Chaga seems to not be as trendy anymore, and it's really expensive for me to source and produce because it's wild crafted for one. Basically, chaga costs like twice the amount of all my other mushrooms, but I charge the same amount as all the other mushrooms. And even my lion's mane costs like twice the amount of everything else, but I don't charge twice the amount. I only charge like a fractional amount more. I don't know the exact percentages, but so I might do turkey tail because it does a lot. It's really good. People like it. It's trendy, and it's cheaper and easier for me to source in really high quality. So that'll probably happen. And I think I might switch focus to just these drink mixes. Once I get them produced and released, it's just kind of an easier thing to sell, market it, and whatnot. And it's kind of trendy. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do, to be totally honest with you. To be even more honest, I'm also just kind of tired. I've been running this company for 13 years while also having a YouTube channel, while also for most of that time running other websites. I had Hyperion Academy, I had Organic Shazandra, I had a couple other things I don't even remember. Got screwed by business partners, got financially taken advantage of. I got hosed by a few suppliers. During the pandemic, I got screwed by suppliers. So many things, dealing with asshole customers, dealing with annoying people on YouTube, cost of all of my goods going way up over the last few years, cost of shipping going up, shipping times going up, customs fees going up. So a lot of hassle, a lot of stress, a lot of things going wrong. You know, I worked with some different marketing agencies that now that I look back, I feel like such an idiot. But at the time, it seemed like a good idea. But I just wasted probably $50,000 on Facebook ads and marketing, social media agencies and stuff. 50 grand that just gone, without anything coming back to replace it. So yeah, now looking back, I'm like, I was so stupid, but for some reason, 2021, it kind of made sense and seemed like it could be a good thing, but hindsight's 2020. So it's just basically like a lot of shit really going wrong and being kind of annoying in a lot of ways. So I'm just kind of like, do I even want to keep doing this? Because on one hand, it is like I do have a lot of freedom, but I also have a lot of stress, a lot of hassle. I mean, I would say just imagine every time you open your email, pretty much someone is attacking you personally or saying something mean about you, or they're insulting your company, or they're yelling at you, or they are creating some scenario where you're at fault, but you're not. And maybe you have a customer service job, so that's your reality. But for me, it just gets to be tiresome and like kind of just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like, what is going on? Obviously, that's not everything. There are a lot of cool people. There are a lot of great customers, a lot of great clients, a lot of like rewarding aspects. But it's just sometimes when, the BS stacks up to a critical mass, especially over the course of 13 years, it's like, what am I doing? Is this really what I want to be doing? Is this really the direction? Because I've had this company for 13 years and it's been my exclusive source of income and livelihood since day one. So yeah, that's just kind of where I am. And I just trying to figure out what exactly I want to do, what direction to go in, and what's going to be the most sustainable thing for the future. But it's just sometimes people don't really realize what goes into things, what goes on behind the scenes. Plus, here's the other thing is, in terms of dating, I would say most of the people that I've met are confused or offended by the fact that I am an entrepreneur. I don't know why. I mean, we could go through the reasons why, I think, but that happens quite a lot. Or they think you're a scammer, or they think you're a liar, or they think you're just not really like a real stable person, like they just think you're like some online scammer. That's kind of like their basic assumption. So that's the thing that I have encountered hundreds of times in a social scenario. So it's just being an entrepreneur, being on your own is already a pretty isolating thing in many arenas. But the flip side is when it does work, it is amazing and it does afford you a high degree of freedom. And being a business owner, you have the possibility for exponential financial growth and genuine wealth creation that you don't have in a normal job. So there's trade-offs with everything. But it's just typically when I meet people, I don't really want to talk about what I do. I don't want to explain it. I don't want to tell them. I just avoid the subject altogether because usually it's just confusion or people are offended or they just they kind of look down on you. But I guess maybe if I dressed in a way that made me look really wealthy, that'd be a little bit different. But I just keep a low key appearance because I don't really care about that stuff. I mean, I had a phase in my life where I had expensive cars and I tried to dress a certain way, and people responded a little differently then. But it's just like, who cares? If you're judging me, if you're talking to me just because you think I have money, then probably not the kind of person I really even want to talk to, anyways. Like, give me a break. So yeah, I don't really like being on the computer. I think social media in general is going in a really negative way. I think society, at least in America right now, is going in a pretty negative way. Like right now, I'm just kind of tired. Usually I'm fine. I just happen to be in the last few days because of what I was working on with training. It kind of like shook up my nervous system. So it's just like I don't have quite the buffer. And some days I just really feel tired because I don't really get days off. I don't really get peace of mind. It's just always shit to do, shit to worry about, shit going wrong, customers calling, having a meltdown, customers emailing, having a panic attack over something that usually has nothing to do with me or some situation they're creating because they want your attention or some endeavor. So just basically dealing with all that over a period of time gets to be draining and gets to be kind of like annoying as well. Which is amazing when the money's good. It's fine because you're like, well, I'm making really good money, so who cares? But then when you have the other side of the equation, when things decrease and contract, because all businesses expand and contract, everything ebbs and flows. When you're in the contraction phase, you're like, why am I doing this? What's the point? Who cares? This is stupid. It's also part of just the like bipolar nature of being an entrepreneur. I think it's like the highs are high, but the lows are low. And I think it's something that maybe people don't necessarily realize when your performance is directly related, when your income is directly related to your competency and performance. I think maybe that's sometimes another thing people don't realize, like, oh, why are you such a dick? Why are you so mean? Why are you so critical, judgmental? It's like, well, partially because I don't have room for being incompetent, because if I am, I lose $50,000 like I did. I had incompetence in this area of business and it wasn't that really well versed, made mistakes, I lost a lot of money, hurt my company. I was incompetent about choosing business partners. So what happened? I lost a lot of money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were removed from my bank account and from my potential bank account because of that incompetence. So then I realized I can't really afford to be unclear about things. I mean, any area, any arena of life. But then I have friends who work in the corporate world and they make $200,000 a year, $250,000 a year. And like the level of incompetence in these companies is extremely high. People make mistakes, people don't perform, people are mediocre, people are lazy, they're unmotivated. And it's fine because they're on corporate welfare. They make $250,000 a year. Very little is expected of them. And there's no real risk. They're not on the line for anything. If they make mistakes, the repercussions are usually mild. There's no threat to their livelihood. There's no threat to their existence. But when you meet them and you talk to them, they're in this high stress state. So that's always interesting and confusing to me. And I always assumed it was that way. But then once I met people and had friends that are in that world and they confirmed that that's how it is, obviously not in every department across every metric. It's not that way. Of course, as you go up the ladder, things are different. But generally, for a lot of people that work at these companies, they earn an amazing salary with amazing benefits and have an insanely high quality of life, but they're fucking miserable. They can't enjoy it. They're on a bunch of mood stabilizing medications. They're overweight. Like they eat garbage. All they want to do is watch TV and consume trivia and all these things. And it's like, wow, what an opportunity that's just kind of being squandered. So my point is that might be kind of why I have a little bit of that mindset. Also, the fact that if I'm training internal arts and I'm trying to be good, I also don't really have the luxury of being wrong or being an idiot or being dull or being incorrect or being wishy-washy or whatever, because that's time wasted. That's decades. That's an opportunity wasted. Obviously, it's a work in progress. I think I'm an idiot. I think I'm dull. I don't think I'm very smart. I don't think I'm successful. I don't think I'm very competent. So I'm trying to be more of those things. And I hope that one day I can have some moderate degree of success in those arenas. If not, I'll fail and die trying, but at least it's something. So I think people say they have these values. Life is precious. Life is valuable. Life is an opportunity. Life is a gift. If that's true, then why not try harder? If all those things aren't true, then why be lazy? Why be complacent? Why don't care that definitions of words are just being completely eroded? If life is really a blessing and life is really a gift and life is really an opportunity and life is all of these things, then why care so little? Why try so little? So then it's like, do you really believe that? Do you believe that enough to actually take action on it? Or is it just something that people say because it sounds cool? Because if you take it a step further and you reflect upon what will people regret when they die? I mean, you can look that up. They ask people, there's studies, there's the research where they ask people and they die, what do they actually regret? Usually it's not doing something, not trying something, not going for something, or not spending time with loved ones, or screwing over loved ones in some way. It's not, man, wish I would have been on social media more. Man, really wish I would have done a carnivore diet instead of a keto diet. Man, I really wish I would have visualized colors more. Yeah, I really wish I would have done that. No, dude, that's not the things that people people regret, which means they're not things that are important, which means they're not things that people really care about, which means that they're trivial, mundane, minutia irrelevance, which is why I say that they are those things, because those are not the things that people will care about when they die, because they will inevitably die. We all will. So you can work backwards and say, what will I actually care about? What will I actually regret? And then live your life according to that, which will probably be different for each of us. But again, it's probably going to come down to doing something, not doing something, trying something, not trying something, showing up for people, not showing up for people, contributing, not contributing. It's going to be something like that, which is going to be relational, which is going to be contributional, if that's even a word, in some way. That's pretty much it. So then if that's all people will care about, then why not live your life according to those things? I wish someone could really explain this and illustrate this to me. Why then spend your life being a fucking victim because, oh, society is this way and I'm a victim because of this thing and blah, 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 blah. It's like, really? Is that what you're going to regret when you die? Like when you realize your life is over and you're leaving and you'll never see anyone again and all of the things that come with death. That's really what people are going to care about. Like, I should have been more of a progressive feminist. Okay, sure. But I mean, on that note, basically, I'll flip it in another contradictory direction. We all come from the same white light, and we all going to return to the same white light, because that's the big spirit that we all are fractionated manifestations of. So in some ways it kind of matters, and it kind of doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that's where we come. That's where we come from. That's where we're going, which is why we experience it when we are born, and we experience the white light when we die. And on the flip side, part of our fractionated existence will reincarnate and perpetuate this shit more and more and more. So it matters and it doesn't. So that's it. Sorry to be so morbid at the end here, but it's just, again, really just makes me wonder. So anyways, thanks again for everyone. Thanks to everyone for showing up. Can I read to you this message that someone just sent to me on a dating app? They said, "Well, I'm seeing you stuck in some binary thinking. You seem like an intelligent person that can put critical thinking and self-awareness into thought processes, but this conversation also shows that there's some room for growth around the ways we're all subject to geographic and historical and cultural practices, as well as power dynamics, as well as presumptions around how people are supposed to want relationships, or that being single is somehow the worst fate a person can have here. Maybe you'll get there, and maybe you'll find empathy and understanding, but I'm not wanting to be the person to teach those things to you. Peace out." So this is a message some lady just sent me, right? So let me give you context for why. Basically, so let me see. So I said that I have this thing on my profile here. I'll play it for you here. Here, look. That's the person that said it as a reference, just so we're. And they basically, here, I'll play it for you. Just hang on. It seems like most people on these apps are really looking for a dog, a dildo, or a decoration, not a genuine relationship with a human male. I say this because I see so many people putting such an effort to emphasize how busy they are and how little they really need someone else, which is very likely just an overcompensation for insecurity. Just in the same way, if I bragged about my money and my sexual prowess, it would obviously be seen for what it was, which is an overcompensation for insecurity, and neither of which is a good foundation for a relationship. Could you hear that? Did that come through? Okay, cool. So that's the first thing on my Hinge profile. So I'll unpack why I say that, because it absolutely is. Basically, I made the video a few weeks ago about why so many modern women choose the wrong partners. And it's basically a continuation on that thought. But the idea is that if you're on a dating app wanting to connect and relate with another human being, and what you're leading with is how much you don't need them, how independent you are, how strong you are, how busy you are, how unavailable you are. Those are all the opposite of actually any realistic thing of connecting with another human being. So The reason why they're so strongly emphasizing, I'm so strong, I'm so independent, I'm so busy, I don't have time for anyone, I have so much going on. All this extreme over here is overcompensating for the fact they probably really want someone, and they're emotionally bothered that they don't have someone, which is why I use the point of, like, obviously if I'm a guy and I'm bragging about how big my dick is and how much money I have, you could tell and probably assume that I'm probably overcompensating for something. But the same logic applied to them. Somehow they don't get it. So that's why I said that. And that basically most of these people are just looking for a dog, a dildo, or a decoration, meaning a dog, someone to just give them attention and affection when they feel like they want it. And they can just kind of, you know, put them aside or just kind of like pet them on the head. But a dog's not really going to be like a real human that's going to challenge them. It's just kind of like, oh, you give me what I want and I'll take care of you and whatever, whatever, whatever. Number two, a dildo. That's kind of self-explanatory. Number three, a decoration, meaning just like my life is perfect. I'm perfect. Everything's great. I just need this one little piece to check this part of my box. Like everything's great. I just don't have a man. I just don't have whatever. And the thing is, I've had extensive, long conversations with women about these things, understanding what do you mean? What do you mean by independent? What do you mean by strong? What do you mean by busy? What do you mean by your life's so full and you don't have time for anyone? What do you mean by these things? Why do you say those things? What are the actual references for those statements? And mostly what I heard was just the basic tenets of being an adult. I have a job, maybe I have a hobby, and I like to watch TV and I work out. I'm like, cool. That's just being an adult. That doesn't mean you're necessarily strong or independent. That just means you're an adult. Yeah, you have your own money. Fine. Congratulations. You're an adult. Cool. That's not, and if you actually are actually strong and independent, why do you have to constantly emphasize it? That seems kind of beside the point. So anyways, this lady messaged me and was like wanting to educate me on gender dynamics. And well, women only have to do this because for so long they've been oppressed by systems, and they say these things as a litmus test for men to make sure that men understand, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that's self-defeating, and these people are going to end up alone. And this modern day feminism and modern day political ideology is something that people are doing because they think it makes them empowered, but in actuality, it's making them worse off. Why do I say that? Because they're all single, because they're all unhappy and dysfunctional. Why would I say that? They all absolutely are in therapy or on mood stabilizers and psychiatric medications. Happy, comfortable people don't do those things. Go on YouTube. There's thousands and hundreds and thousands of videos confirming exactly what I'm saying. You can see it in people's profiles, and you see it when you talk to them. And again, I don't fault the individual. I'm not mad at the person. I'm not saying they're lesser than. I'm just saying, like, this is a dysfunctional attitude. Like, if you're trying to connect with someone and you're leading with all this political nonsense, and your presumption is that the guy's inherently a piece of shit who's going to treat you poorly, what does that say about you as a person? And what does that say about your attitude towards men in society? And if your attitude towards men in society is so inherently negative and presumptuous, that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, most likely. Or what's going to happen is something I've seen time and time again. Girl leads with all this feminism. I'm so strong. I'm so empowered. I'm all these things. The world is critical race theory. The world is the patriarchy and all this injustice and that whole thing. They lead with that. Mostly that's just emotional coercion to see if they can control and manipulate the guy. So there's a couple of options. One option is the guy is going to just kowtow to it and be agreeable just so that he can hopefully get access to sex. And he's going to validate all of her nonsense and be very agreeable, which she will like in the short term, but she will also not respect him. because it's like, well, wait, this guy's agreeable, and they're just kind of going along with what I think, say, and feel just to get access to this thing. That's like that's the opposite of integrity. And what I'm saying is true in both situations. If I met a girl that just was super agreeable and went along with everything that I said and was just completely whatever, then I would kind of be suspicious. Or like the examples I was saying earlier, if they're just saying all this flattery and all of this stuff, I'm kind of like, meh, that's not really integrity. That's just some kind of emotional coercion. So I told this person, this lady, the message I just read, that people are so brainwashed that they're doing these things that they think are helping them, but it's actually making them worse. And if we look at the massive increase in single people and how unhappy and unsatisfied people are, and how much porn is being consumed, all these other metrics are there, which are suggesting that what I'm saying is probably true. And the fact of the matter is, time will tell. I know what I'm saying is true because I can wager to a high degree of probability that it's highly likely that the vast majority of these people will be single and alone in 5 or 10 years, or their relationships will crumble and not work because of many dysfunctional dynamics that I just talked about. So, partially how I can say that is because I've lived in the same city for, I don't know, 8 years or so. I've seen a lot of the same women. When I go on and off apps or whatever at random intervals, see the same women, seeing the same people on there, having the same problems, the same issues, or I'll talk to people, or I have friends, or I have friends that are therapists or mental health workers or that are medical healers, whatever, and they're talking about their client's experience. So it's like, yeah. And yeah, it's to me, it's a predictable trope at this point. People don't see how prejudiced they are. Meaning, if a woman goes into a situation assuming all of these negative things about men, I think that's what prejudice is. I think that's what bias is. But they don't realize it. They think their prejudice makes them evolved and strong and independent. It's like, no, it's self-defeating because it's going to drive anyone with moral fabric, anyone with um, anyone with integrity, morality, or sanity will get the fuck out of that situation. So all they're going to attract is unhealthy, manipulative, skeezy guys. And then they're going to wonder why things are dysfunctional. It's like, well, maybe all of your prejudice, maybe all of your bias and your political bullshit, maybe that has something to do with it. But I mean, it's exactly what I said in the video about modern dating. And again, I could make videos critiquing men as well, and I have done that in videos, pointing out all the ways in which men are falling short and need to be better and need to work on themselves and need to contribute. But the fact of the matter is that the dating market, the dating pool, is controlled and run by women. It's amazing to me that people aren't more aware of that. Women are the ones that tend to control access to sex. The only reason men nowadays are more feminine is because they think that's what will get them more sex. Most men have kind of like the willpower of a small rodent, so they'll do and be and say whatever they can to get access to that resource. Ultimately, I know it's kind of a disgusting, inhumane way to put it, but it's kind of has some truth to it. Also, too, people are just socially programmed. We're in this environment. We're given these images. We're having these agendas pushed on us, which tend to contradict with our actual biological reality and tend to contradict with our actual inherent mental qualities. So then we're already at a place of deep moral conflict. So then we're navigating the world from a place of moral conflict and wondering why we experience dysfunction. So yeah. So Thank you for expressing your experience on the dating sites. It makes me solidify my decision to have nothing to do with it and just cultivate and do other things. I don't want to be a pet, etc. Yeah, I mean, it's sad that it is kind of this way. Um, I don't know that I really have the answer to it yet. I mean, obviously there are great people. There are still good people. Not everyone on the apps are complete idiots or assholes. This lady I knew was going to be an idiot because she responded to my prompt with kind of like a confrontational, some like highly intellectual gender bullshit, which you could tell that from her message. She's highly educated, or at least tries to appear as such, but yet doesn't realize what she's saying is fucking stupid. Um, it's just basically like people, they act like this Marxism 101 level understanding is somehow profound. Like it really isn't. In viewing everything in life through power dynamics, what does that say about you as a person? Like the fact that you walk into a relationship and it's all about like this battle and this struggle and this power, and you have to beat and battle your man and defeat the toxicity and all this stuff. It's like, dude, that's so many levels of brainwashing, social engineering, programming, conditioning, that it's like you're beyond rational thought at that point, which is why I gave her my doomsday thing of like, yeah, you're probably, I don't know if I said you, but I said they, like these people, these ladies that believe in this stuff are probably going to be alone. Um, and then of course she was like, oh, well, you're acting like being alone is the worst thing. And I'm like, well, if you're completely okay with being alone, then why are you on a dating app? Why you're on a dating app is because you want a guy that perfectly fits in and matches their. She's looking for a dog, a dildo, or a decoration. She's looking for a guy that perfectly matches her pre-existing um, little definition, which is kind of rude and inconsiderate and not even human. So it's like, again, another example of her trying to disprove what I'm saying, but just actually being and providing more support for the actual hypothesis. My claim was that these ladies that are emphasizing these qualities are self-defeating, and they're doing it because they just want some preconceived image. They don't actually want a person, because a person would require mutual respect, mutual accountability, mutual self-reflection, kind of like this interdependence, right? But what they actually want is give me affection, give me sex when I want it, and check the box of my life so I can feel like I have everything now. I've got a job, I got a kid, I have a man, then I checked all the boxes, I have everything. But in actuality, they won't be satisfied. It'll be either the next man or the next thing, or they'll need to be an open relationship. They'll need to be polyamorous. They'll need to be whatever, because they'll just never be satisfied. Why do I say that? Because I've seen it tons of times, and because I guarantee you, with a high degree of probability, this is what the next 5-10 years we're going to see more and more of. So we can look back on this. I should just start like a Nostradamus channel and just start making my predictions about things, because already shit that I was saying in 2016 and 17 came to fruition. I was saying in 2016 and 17 how people worship science. People have scientism, how science is basically like a religion for people, and how under the right circumstances they just get into a religious fervor and they just worship it and they don't question it. And it's basically just a dogma a lot of the time. And people were like, no, you're an idiot, you're mean, you're an asshole. Science is amazing. Science is what we need, blah, 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 blah. Which, of course, yeah, science is great. The scientific method is amazing. And then what happened with COVID? Was it an exact manifestation of the exact dynamics that I was exactly describing in those times? And everyone said I was an idiot, I was an asshole, I was crazy, I was stupid, I was illogical, I was all these things. Like, maybe that's an exact manifestation and playing out of the exact dynamics that I was describing. People being brainwashed, acting up in a fervor because they're buying into this science thing that's basically just a religion. Because if it was actually science, then it would manifest differently. But it's manifesting like a cult It's manifesting like kind of like a tyrannical, oppressive religious system, which is exactly what I was describing and trying to point out for 2 years. And everyone was like, oh, you're wrong. You're mean. You're an idiot. Okay. It's almost as if everything I said, it was exactly what played out. Obviously, not in a way that I predicted, because I don't think anyone could have predicted that exact manifestation. But the fact is, the dynamics were the dynamics. So that was kind of funny. So maybe I should just start a channel of being like, here's what I think is going to happen. And I could do that because I say that to my friends, but a lot of the stuff now is a little bit, it's pretty grim and it's pretty dark. So I don't know that it's really going to do it, but I'll tell you one of them because we're deep in the live stream and I doubt anyone will watch it this far anyways. So basically, I haven't said this publicly, but back in like 2015 or something, when I moved to Portland, and I was seeing and encountering all the extreme left-wing Marxist ideology and social justice warrior stuff and gender bender sexual ideology stuff, right? Back then, my thought was the end goal for this agenda is normalizing pedophilia. That was my thought. That was my takeaway. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like, there's no way. Like, it's insane. I shouldn't say this to people. Definitely don't say this publicly. Like, this is crazy. But that was my original thought. This is where this is going. This is what this is going to be. This is the end result. This is why it's being pushed. And this is what the overall trajectory is going to be. So then over the last couple of years, there's been more and more evidence that that was actually the case. Even in England recently, there's been people that were, and even in America, there's people that have been caught and found out for doing, let's just say, bad things with children or bad things with underage adults or underage people, and the media defends them completely and says, oh, they're human, they're compassionate, like, let's not attack them, let's be nice to them, say all these things. Then I get into the work of Jennifer Billick or Bilick. She's talking about the Pritzker family, I think is what it is, and basically talking about how they want to create a transhumanist society and a bunch of other things that I'm not going to go into because I don't really want to get into this creepy fucking rabbit hole. But basically, once I started to see who was funding these agendas being pushed through society and through schools, who was funding it, why they were funding it, and really what their personal agenda was, then I quickly realized, unfortunately, I was kind of right back in 2015 about the end goal being that thing. Because if you create a transhumanist society, that's a society where there's no age and there's no gender. If there's no age and there's no gender, I'll let you do your own research and fill in the blanks because I don't need to go full Alex Jones. Like that's not my forte. But it's just basic low level pattern recognition. And you can look it up. Look up Jennifer Billick or Bilick. Look up her work. Look up her research articles. Look at these families. Look at the funding. You can see the trickle down effects, and you can see how things are manifesting in society. You can see why the Gates Foundation has spent $1 billion making sure that critical race theory gets put into education system. You can see why they've spent tons of money. I don't know the exact figure for this one, but I know for the critical race theory, they've definitely invested like $1 billion. For the whole gender ideology thing, I don't know. I can't remember exactly how much they've invested, but the Gates Foundation, others have put in shitloads of money. So it's like you have people with lots of power and influence spending lots of money to make sure that education teaches certain things, media pushes certain things, movies, TV shows, books say certain things. That's all objectively true. Anyone can look that up. Anyone can verify that for themselves. And I would not say that these agendas that they're pushing are necessarily based in reality or are based in people's best interests. So you can do that, and then you can look at that person's life, their lifestyle, look at things that you can find out about them and ascertain to some degree what their actual beliefs, values, motivations are. You look at all those things, and then you look at what's actually happening, and you can say, I wonder if there's a connection. I wonder if there's a correlation. And then from there, you can kind of ascertain maybe where things might go. So that's basically the shocking, disgusting thing that I've seen become more prevalent. And even within the last month, they're trying to normalize minor attracted persons and all these other different things, where they're trying to basically have that be like a normal, accepted thing. Which then you also have to also ask, why do so many strangers want to talk to children about their sexuality? Why do they want kids at like pride parades? Because this is the other thing. In Portland recently, and in many other places of the country, but I think in Portland, I saw a video where someone called the police and said, "Hey, there's a bunch of grown men naked in front of children in public. Um, this doesn't seem to be okay." And they were like, "Oh, is it for pride or a pride parade or a protest?" They're like, "Yes." Oh, they're like, "Oh, that's fine then." They're like, "Oh, but if it was just a normal Tuesday, would it be a crime?" They're like, "Yeah, it would be a crime any other time of life unless it's a pride parade or a protest, in which case it's okay for these adults, these grown men, to be naked in front of children and be twerking and dancing and humping each other and doing all this shit in front of kids. It's fine under those situations, but on a normal Tuesday, it would be a crime." This is what you're telling me? Yes. Okay. So this is the next evolution of what people were going to be accepting and fighting for. Like in the same way that people were shooting everyone down for COVID, or shooting everyone down for you're a racist because of something, or you're a misogynist because you or whatever. This is going to be the next thing. I can I'm unfortunately thinking that this is going to be the case. People are already so completely morally bankrupt that this thing that is obviously wrong on some level, that I feel like it's a level that we should just know is wrong, that we shouldn't necessarily have to explain or logically justify. It's just like if I went down the street and just murdered someone for no reason, I feel like people would be like, that's not right. Like that's wrong. But if that person broke into my house in the middle of the night and was going to attack my family and then I murdered them, then you might be like, yeah, maybe that's not like great, but you can kind of see why you did it. But you didn't actually murder them because you're acting in self-defense. Like, so morally, we can sort of see that there's something there. But now we live in a world where, especially in Portland, there's been multiple instances where basically a homeless guy, not the same one, but two different people, homeless guy just like picked up a rock and just in the middle of the day, broad daylight, no reason, no nothing, picked up a rock and just attacked this person. This person happens to be fighting for their life and not in a good position, let's say. What do you think the news coverage about this event was? I can tell you it wasn't about the victim. They didn't even mention the victim. I don't give a shit about the victim. They're like, hey, so we just need to understand we don't want to demonize this person, you know. We don't be mean, like don't treat them like a criminal. Don't, just realize they have mental health problems and they're having a mental health struggle. It's like, yeah, obviously they have mental health problems. They picked up a rock and beat someone in the middle of the daylight for no reason. We understand that they have mental health problems. That's implicit. That's not the important part of the subject. The important part of that subject is the person in the hospital who like maybe will never be normal again. Maybe will have their life ruined with millions of dollars of medical bills. Maybe they don't have the money or the insurance or the infrastructure or the support. Maybe they were the sole breadwinner of their family and now their family is on the street. Like maybe there's all these other horrible things, but do they mention it? Not at all. Not even mentioned. Not even a concern. Not even a passing thought. The only thought is, hey, this person was mental health problems. They had a mental health crisis. And then the next day, another person in the same area stabbed someone multiple times. I don't know if they died or not. I don't remember, but they just stabbed him for no reason. What was the news coverage? The same exact thing. Hey, so it's just a mental health problem. Don't be mean. Don't worry about it. What about the victim? Oh, yeah, who cares? So, my point is, and this actually circles back perfectly to the entire point of this whole live stream, is that people arrive at a point of being so morally bankrupt within themselves, to being so divorced from their own experience, that this level of irrelevance is the norm. So when I make videos about a subject saying people are controlled by their base desires and they're consumed with irrelevant things and they can't recognize authentic information, and then people respond in kind reflecting those things and they get mad at me. The reason why I care and the reason why it's a problem is because these things are connected. Because when you're this out to lunch, crimes, inhumane treatments, despicable, horrible things, you apparently are okay with because you're focused on irrelevant nonsense. Because you're focused on trying to look good or trying to be virtuous or trying to be some cool thing. Meanwhile, people are actually getting harmed. So you're actively participating in your own demise and you're actively harming yourself and others in pursuit of this demonic fucking possession of an idea. So that's why I make the videos. That's why I troll people. And it's a little heavy-handed, but in my mind, these things are all connected, which is why I think they're bothersome. So getting back to my point, I think this is unfortunately going to be the next crazy, ridiculous agenda thing that's going to get pushed through. And people are going to shoot you down if you're against it and shoot you down if you have a problem with it. I think probably climate change will come first, the climate crisis, which is another thing that's heavily manipulated and people are heavily brainwashed and engineered around. And people just gobble up these ideas that don't even make sense. They don't even they don't even second guess them or question them or research them further. And they're given these ideas by people who are completely hypocritical. Like the richest people on the planet are somehow coming together, uh, who have made their money exploiting the planet and its resources, and somehow now they care about saving the planet and its resources. No, they just actually are using this as the next form of exploitation, um, which is, this might be too nuanced and complicated for to come across clearly, so I'll do my best. But going back to the lady that I just showed her message, basically what I told her was that basically the system doesn't care about equality. I said the system didn't give women equal rights because they care about equal rights. They didn't give women the right to be in the workforce because they care about women in the workforce. They did it probably because they double their tax revenue. They did it because now they have more money to make. They just created a whole new demographic, a whole new market. That's the only, because the thing is, if on one hand you say this system is corrupt, it's oppressive, it's held us down for so many years, but now the system says, okay, you're here, you can have rights. And suppose now you think overnight the system is just like, oh yeah, you're right, we were wrong all this time. Like we've been exploiting people for our own gain. But you know, you're right. We get it. Here's equality. We're like, really? You think that's what it is? Sure, you benefited, sure your life is better, there's no doubt about it. We are absolutely, men and women, we are now the most, what we are the wealthiest serfs and peasants in human history. We have more wealth, we have more ability, we have more freedom than any peasants or any serfs that have ever existed in human history. But the fact of the matter is, we're still peasants. We're still serfs. We are still serving and working in a serfdom, and we are not the people at the top. Like, but yes, it is absolutely the best form of serfdom and um, peasantry that's existed. I agree with that completely, and we've made a lot of progress. And of all the perverse, distorted ways in which humans can organize, this seems to be, in many ways, the most equitable and the most functional, at least that we know of. Obviously, there's still a lot of room for improvement, still a lot of things that could be better. But yeah. So, anyways, getting back to my message from this lady, I basically just said, like, look, you're buying into this ideology that the system gave to you, the system which you're defining as being corrupt and oppressive, but you think the system is giving you this ideology for your own good? No, because you're defining the system as being corrupt, being oppressive, being whatever, but you think it's actually empowering you now. Like, no, it's just giving you another form of perceived empowerment, which, yes, of course, might be better. Yes, of course, might be a step in the right direction, but you're still being exploited. You're still being taken advantage of, and it's still mostly in their benefit. So, why I say this is because people think now all the racial equality and gender equality and gender ideology, you think these companies actually give a shit about any of those things? No, they're just creating new markets, new demographics, and rolling out new ways to make more money and have more control over our lives. They are It's basically what the mental health industry has done. They took our psyche and figured out ways to take it apart and turn it into a commodity and make a shitload of money on it and convince people that they have all these problems, they need all of these things just so they could create all these new industries and all of these new markets and all of these new products and all this new commerce. That's it. So the same thing with all the like sexual ideology and gender thing and the racism stuff, like they don't care. They never have and they never will because it's not in the corporate structure. Like it's for psychopaths by psychopaths, basically. And that's just history. Like you can look any of these things up for yourself. So they're just doing it to create new markets, new demographics, new products, new hyper specific things. That's it. And of course, yes, there are some benefits. Yes, of course, things are better improved. It's not completely good or bad, right or wrong, but we shouldn't ignore the larger dynamics and the larger motivations that are at play because that would just be kind of silly. So that's what I was trying to get across to that lady who wrote that hilarious message. But um, so yeah. But anyways, I tend to not talk about that stuff too publicly because it's not really a safe environment anymore. It's too nuanced. It's too much gradation. Too much relativity. Um, for people to really grasp sometimes, especially when they're so gut brainwashed. I'm a victim, and you're bad, and you're an oppressor, and it's just like, how do you not realize? How do they not realize how guilty of the thing that they're against that they are? Meaning prejudging someone based on their gender and the color of their skin. Oh, you're a man and you're white, so I'm assuming all these things about you and your life experience. Or like how, yeah, I'm not going to get into it because it's not my focus. It's not my thing. I don't care. I'm not a political thing. I'm not Alex Jones. So you can explore that shit on your own. So yeah, anyways, it's just amazing to me the level of these things that people miss, which is why I make the videos and say the things that I say, because usually there's some thought that goes into it and some degree of whatever. Yes, I probably should wrap it up here. I can't believe this went on as long as it did. I think I say that every time. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna do 5 minutes, and it's like 2 hours. I'm like, holy shit. But for whatever reason, the live streams get a lot more views than actual videos. And then I actually do have another video going live later today. Um, but I actually just made this uh, video comment. So that's why I did it, because it came up in a comment, and then a few people in the actual live stream were pretty butthurt about the thumbnails. So I just wanted to reiterate and show exactly why I chose the thumbnails. Um, so here, I'll read the comment. I'll give the negative person. Let's see. Francis Bacon Cheeseburger says, if me using a girl in a bikini in the thumbnail of a video is deception, then what Purdue Pharmaceutical did with about oxycodone, is that also deception? Yes. Just because what you're doing is moderately inconveniencing them by tricking them into watching something they don't think they're going to watch somehow doesn't prevent it from being deception. It's deception nonetheless. Deception, number one. The use of deceit, number two. The fact or state of being deceived. Number three, a ruse or a trick. To quote you, I feel personally bothered by dishonesty, deceit, lies, untruth in really any manifestation. So if it's the New Age spiritual teachers saying things that aren't true, teaching things that aren't true, I find it personally bothersome. The irony, period. The mental gymnastics, period. Good luck, buddy, period. So that was like, okay, it's just like, how many points and things can a person miss and get wrong in one thing? Uh, so it's funny, like, because I just realized another level. It's funny that I didn't realize, because there's the actual title and description of the video. So I guess the person can't read, because okay, there's there's a so I make a video about how people's base desires are stimulated, and it controls them for better or worse, and how people focus on irrelevance and get distracted by silly things. That's what the video is about. So use a thumbnail that is stimulating people's base desires, and like a trivial thing, just basically trolling the fact that more people will click on it and be distracted by the irrelevant thing, and then miss exactly what I'm saying in the video. So I get that he missed all of those things and the joke went over his head, but then I also just realized that he missed the fact that there's a video title and a video description. So I could understand if the thumbnail was completely unrelated, which it isn't, and the video title was also unrelated, which it isn't, and the video description was also unrelated, which it isn't. Then I guess that would be, to quote, a form of deception, because I'm moderately inconveniencing them by tricking them into watching they don't think they're going to watch. To watching something they don't think they're going to watch doesn't prevent it from being deception. It's deception nonetheless. Uh, but apparently that's on the same level as what Purdue Pharmaceutical did. So I guess what I'm understanding is that me using a thumbnail that is actually relevant and related to the content of the video, the title of the video, and the description of the video, but just in a way that is over this guy's head, that is on the same level as Purdue Pharmaceutical killing millions of people with oxycodone and getting millions of more people addicted to opiates, and probably creating the methadone, not methadone, the not oxycodone, I can't remember what it's called. Oh, the fentanyl. Because I think kind of the oxycodone led to opiates, led to heroin, led to fentanyl. So basically, I kind of blame Purdue Pharmaceutical for helping to create a lot of this stuff through their absolute, complete, and utter deception and lies that they did. So according to this person, yes, just because what you're doing is moderately inconvenient to them. So I guess I'm also apparently responsible for killing millions of people, ripping apart millions of people, their family, getting millions of people addicted to opiates. Uh, but the downside is I didn't make billions of dollars off of it, which sucks because the Purdue Pharmaceutical Company and the Sackler family made billions and billions of dollars off of it. I honestly, if I could make billions of dollars, hold on. If I could make billions of dollars moderately inconveniencing them by tricking them into watching something they don't think they're going to watch, I would probably do it. I'll be that honest with you. Like, if I can make billions of dollars from getting people to watch a YouTube video thumbnail, I would do it. I'm not that morally sound of an individual that I would do it. And I think most humans would probably as well. So I guess I missed the boat, and I need to work on my deception because I didn't make billions of dollars, like the Sackler family in Purdue Pharmaceutical. But apparently, I'm deceiving people just the same by moderately inconveniencing them, which is like, dude, if you're on Herb Gardener 00, clicking on a video titled, let me see, clicking on a video called "From Consumerism to Consciousness" or "Unmasking the Illusion" or "Unlocking Self-Reflection." If you're on Herb Gardener 00 and you see a video with those titles, with those descriptions, and it has a thumbnail about people with a people on a beach in a bikini, and you think the video is going to be people on a beach in a bikini, then you, my friend, need help. I hate to break it to you. Like, there's bigger problems in the world and bigger problems in this person's journey of self-development. But then my favorite part is it's always the irony, period, the mental gymnastics, period. My favorite part is always the good luck, buddy. Always the like condescending passive aggressive thing, which if you notice in the message earlier from that Hinge lady, it also was wrapped up with like a condescending namaste, brother, but fuck you, that kind of thing. That's always my favorite part. Um, it's great. Like at this point, I'm doing YouTube. I can pretty much predict the exact formula that negative comments will take. Like, I'm telling you, what I'm going to start doing is because when I make a video, I always say in my head, these are probably what the negative comments are going to be. This is what people are going to have problems with. So I think I should start writing it down and like timestamp it and take a picture of it and then just post it and be like, look, 6 hours before I posted this video, here's what I predicted the comments would be, and then post it. Because I did that. I did that in some videos actually years ago. I was like, before I get in this video, here's what I think the negative comments are going to be. And that's exactly what they were. Because it's not because I'm smart. It's just people are predictable. People are predictable because of the exact dynamics I've laid out in those other videos. Yeah. People just want to catch people they know the rule in a contradiction because it makes them feel like they are a better guy. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably what that is about. Somehow trying to get one over on me, which is like, okay, maybe if I do misspeak, or I could have said something more clearly, or I could have been more explicit, or I used the wrong word. Okay. I mean, I'm a human being on a live stream saying things off the top of my head with no outline, with no plan, with no nothing. Okay. I'm sure that happens. I'm sure I've done it. I'm sure I'll do it in the future. I'm sure I'll say something and then I'll look back and be like, you know what? I could have said it in another way and I should have said it this way and I actually meant this. Could have been more clear, for sure. I think that's just life and being a human. But I guess, yeah, someone watching a video that's literally just some random dude in his apartment talking to his fucking webcam. Like, but all the moral quandaries and stuff that I laid out in that video, fine, no problem, no issue. It's just like the news, the people that they were interviewing on the news about the guy who killed or stabbed someone for no reason and hit them with a rock and almost killed them for no reason. The news isn't about the victim or how wrong or the how maybe it's a symptom of a large problem or a large dynamic that's degrading the quality of the city and going to have negative economic impacts. No real conversation on anything relevant or useful that's actually going to make a difference for people. What's the conversation? Oh, they have mental health problems. We shouldn't judge them. We shouldn't be treat them like a criminal. And, we just need to help them and be nice and be compassionate. It's like, well, no, they just did something horrible. Like, maybe let's talk about that. So the thing is, like, I just feel like the person who made this kind of comment is probably the same kind of person who would believe and buy into similar stuff like that, because a situation isn't about anything relevant. It's not about solving any actual problem or addressing anything that's useful to that thing. It's more about, oh, I need to look good. I need to look cool. I need to look better. I need to look smarter. I need to put my whatever forward. And the thing is, the more people do that, the more everything gets worse for everyone. And that's just kind of reality. So when people say, like, who cares if people if things are degrading over time? It's like, well, why do you not care that things are degrading over time? How are you not bothered by that? Probably not bothered by that because you're consumed with being self-absorbed, trying to find these small battles and these small ways to like be a petty tyrant in your life or attack other people over trivial, mundane nonsense. Like, I don't know, dude. But anyways, maybe I'll just start make videos and highlight negative comments, and just because some of them are so silly that it's like, come on, dude, you can do better. But anyways, I know it. I'm mean. I'm a jerk. So, but yeah, okay. I'm saying it again. I gotta go. It's been a long time. Thanks for everyone who showed up. And oh yeah, Chuck, any recommendations on where to get good gynostemma? Sorry, I haven't answered that already. I know you've asked a few times. I don't really have recommendations yet. I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. Basically, I took the gynostemma off the site because the owner of the company that I was sourcing it from died a year or so ago. He died, and his company kind of faltered, and his family's trying to take over the company and keep it going. And I've just been kind of waiting on them to get things back up and running. And I think they also raised their prices a lot. And my margins on that product were already pretty slim. So it's like, do I want to just start selling it again, but at a higher price point? Or do I just not want to worry about it at all? And then I don't think I can find a better source than that because that was already the best. So that's why I can't really give any other recommendations on that product. So anyways, hopefully that answers your question, and sorry it took me so long to get to it. But yeah, thanks again for anyone that showed up in this absolutely random early time. I would say tune in like an hour or something. I have a video going live I think in like an hour and a half, 12:30 p.m. my time. So whatever that converts to your time. So like an hour and a half, it'll go live. It's actually pretty good. But again, there's no women in bikinis, so people shouldn't get mad. The thumbnail is just me being stupid. But it's basically like what I believe to be the main solution to the vast majority of mental and emotional problems that I don't think a lot of people can relate to. All right, just for you, I'll bring the women in bikinis back. I'll just have to make it related to the video and more base desire kind of talk, which actually I do have some videos lined up about base desires and the connection between fear and sex and these kinds of things. So I will do that. So yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments and support and for understanding. And more importantly, hopefully, you can learn from my mistakes and learn from my ridiculousness. That's the goal anyways. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon.